Welcome to CBS News. I'm Lindsay and I'll be your newscaster tonight. First off, we have our African correspondent, Josu, interviewing Goodluck Jonathan on the ever-changing political structure of Nigeria.
Thank you, Lindsay. Now here we have with us Goodluck Jonathan to explain to us the ethnic diversities that are held in Nigeria.
Muslim Hausa and Fulani are the predominant ethnic groups in Nigeria's northern region. Though the groups originated in different parts of West Africa, religion, intermarriage, and adoption of the Hausa language by the Fulani have unified the groups over time. In Nigeria, they are referred to collectively as Hausa Fulani. As the largest of the major ethnic groups, Hausa Fulanis have been politically dominant since Nigeria's independence from Britain in 1960. Islam is a key component in their ethnic identity and continues to inform their role in modern Nigerian society and politics. Their culture is deeply patriarchal, and families trace through the father. In recent years, Hausa and Fulani were instrumental in adopting and upholding Sharia, a system of Islamic law, in 11 of the country's northern states.
Thank you.
Now, the Igbo, the main ethnic group in southeastern Nigeria, has represented opposition of Sharia law. In many northern Hausa Fulani-dominated states, minority populations of Igbo claim to have been unfairly targeted by laws that do not pertain to their faith. Unlike neighboring Hausa and Yoruba cultures, Igbo society was traditionally decentralized and non-hierarchical. This made its members easier converts for European missionaries, and today, most Igbo are Christian. Under British imperialist rule, many Igbo served in government and military roles and were later key figures in Nigerian independence. Over the last few decades, the group has become less politically dominant. However, discovery of large oil reserves near Igbo land in the early 1960s and proposed redistricting led many in the group to fear that they would be cut out of revenues from the country's natural resources.
Wow.
In 1967, an Igbo secessionist movement in Biafra state led to a 2-year war with the Nigerian government where hundreds of thousands of Igbo were starved to death. After the war, Igbo were reintegrated into Nigerian society. Despite lingering ethnic tension, they now play an important part in southeastern Nigeria's oil trade. In recent elections, however, they have struggled to agree around a single candidate for the presidency.
Wow.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Now, the Yoruba. The Yoruba are one of Nigeria's most urban ethnic groups. Historically, their culture centered on densely populated city-states, each controlled by an Oba, meaning king. Yoruba now form the majority in Lagos, which is the second most populous city in Nigeria. In Africa. In modern-day Nigeria, Yoruba speakers do not always identify with their larger ethnic group, but rather the many smaller Yoruba-speaking communities.
Oh, yes.
This pluralism extends to Yoruba's views of religion. As Islam and Christianity spread to Yoruba land over the past few centuries, the group embraced both faiths alongside its many traditional and animist beliefs. This blend and acceptance of religion survives in modern times and has initiated some religious conflict in places where Yoruba formed the majority. Like the Igbo, Yoruba held important roles in the British colonial government, participating significantly in both political and economic life. Since independence, the group has been overshadowed by the more numerous and dominant House of Fulani. Remember those from the beginning.
Yes.
However, in 1999, a Christian Yoruba named Olusegun Obasanjo
Obasanjo,
became
yes.
Nigeria's president and first elected head of state. He was re-elected for his second term in 2003.
Oh,
Now,
very good.
Ijaw. My group, the Ijaw, have agitated for more political franchise in Nigeria. Although we are the fifth largest ethnic group in the country. Our traditional lands in the Niger River Delta are some of the country's most oil rich. Oil exploration has had devastating consequences on Ijaw territory and subjected us to numerous ecological hazards. Mismanagement of oil revenues has kept much of the wealth from returning to our community.
Wow.
In January 2006, the Ijaw militia movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta kidnapped 4 Royal Dutch Shell employees in the Niger Delta region, demanding the release of an Ijaw militia leader who was arrested by Nigerian authorities. His continued detention has caused members of MEND to swear continued attacks and disruptions to the oil industry. Despite this tension, in 2007, I and Ijaw take a political office for the first time as a vice presidential candidate for Alhaji Umaru Musa Yar'Adua.
Great man. Wow. Very interesting. Thank you, Good Luck Jonathan. And now, could you elaborate on more of the changes of political structure from 1990 to the present?
Well, let's talk about ethnic tension. The Nigerian government has worked out tentative power-sharing arrangements to help ensure that its many ethnic groups have some say in how the country's natural resource wealth is spent. But major questions about ethnicity and how to balance the many competing interests still burden our society. Cities remain largely segregated along ethno-religious lines, and confrontation between ethnic groups is common. Often, ethnic clashes in one part of the country can set off a chain of reprisal riots and attacks in other parts of the country. All major ethnic groups have formed militias to protect their own interests and perpetrate violence on other groups. While illegal, these vigilante groups continue to act with impunity for lack of stringent law enforcement.
Wow. So if they had better structure and hold of the government, they would be able to control the population more and create less cleavage between ethnicities.
Exactly. Our political instability began from the 1960s. When Nigeria gained its independence from Great Britain, the chain of coup had already manifested. It was no different during the 1990s. At the beginning of the 1990s, Ibrahim Babangida was in rule. He succeeded a coup in 1985 against Buhari, the previous ruler of Nigeria. During his regime, Babangida claimed that he was a human rights activist and released some of the politicians that Buhari imprisoned. However, he also harassed opposition interest groups and detained many people for minor political offenses. Former Nigerian military leader Ibrahim B. Babangida discussed prospects for oil exploration in the northern region of the West African nation. Ibrahim Babangida, 1990, resisted a coup led by Gideon Okar, a junior military officer that failed but almost killed Babangida. More than 200 soldiers were sentenced to death, then executed.
Oh, wow.
200. Unlike the other coup, this coup was heavily funded by civilians.
Interesting.
A new constitution was set up in 1990, and the country was supposed to return to civilian rule in 1992. However, there were suspicions that it was actually not going to take place, and pressure started to build. This led to the Federal Council allowing an election to take place in 1992. However, the Babangida government erased the results of that election, claiming fraud and postponed additional elections.
Whoa,
Yes.
that is amazing.
The postponed election was then held in June 1993, and the winner was Moshood Abiola. This was believed to be the first fair election held in the history of Nigeria. However, Babangida again claimed fraud and annulled the results of the election. For the next 2 months, hundreds were killed in demonstrations. Human rights and pro-democracy activists were arrested, and opposition newspapers were shut down. Several Nigerian cities were paralyzed. Pressure grew within the country, and in 1993, Babangida resigned.
Very good.
Ernest Shonekan was then appointed as the president. Shonekan's regime only lasted less than 3 months. 3 meses. This is because Sani Abacha overthrew him on January 17, 1993. Sani Abacha initially promised to return the government to civilian rule within 2 years. However, he dismantled all elected institutions, terminated all national and state assemblies, closed independent publications, banned all political activity, and suspended the Constitution.
Also, he think he can do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
Terrible.
There was an attempted coup in 1995. Obasanjo and Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, remember them, were also suspected in aiding the coup and were sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Half a century, quarter of a century.
Ken Saro-Wiwa criticized the Nigerian government for the environmental damages caused by the oil industry on the land inhabited by the Ogoni. May 1994, 4 Ogoni chiefs were murdered. Saro-Wiwa and 8 other leaders were arrested, being accused of the crime, and were sentenced to death by hanging.
Vulgar. Archaic.
Opposition came from all over the world, especially because it was obvious that the trial was rigged, and later it was found out the Nigerian government bribed witnesses. However, they were still hung on November 10th. This shocked the world and led to the suspension of Nigeria. This hurt Nigeria's dropping economy. Obaka tried to improve his image by portraying Nigeria as a peacemaker. In 1996, he negotiated a peace agreement that ended Libya's 7-year civil war.
Oh, very good.
December 21st, 1997, attempted coup by Obaka by Oladipo Diop. 4 officers and a civilian were sentenced to death on April 1998. Others were sentenced to prison. However, the head of state, Abu Bakr, later commuted this sentence. Elections to return to civilian rule was set for August 1st, 1998. Yet, to Abu Bakr's rule had been mounting more and more in recent months because it was suspected he did not intend to step down. Demonstrations broke out, riots broke out, many were killed. On June 8, 1998, Abu Bakr died of a heart attack at the age of 54.
Amazing.
54. Abu Salam Abukaba took Abaka's place.
Vice President.
He set up a program that led the country back to democracy May 29, 1999. Olusegun Obasanjo declared the new democratically elected president and continued to be the president of Nigeria until May 29, 2007. My running mate, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, served as president until 1910 when he died. Then I served out the rest of his term and was re-elected to serve until 2015.
Wow.
Finally, the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, is pursuing Nigeria to prosper in our 4th republic.
Thank you, sir.
Yo, great.
Tentacle.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
for having
much.
me.
Back to you, Lindsay.
I've been feeling so down.